The alarm bells rang across the bridge of the human ship Starbound as Captain Jake Morrison rushed to his command chair. The red emergency lights painted everything in an eerie glow. His communication officer, Lieutenant Amy Foster, looked up with worry in her eyes. "Captain, we're getting a distress signal from the Valari homeworld. It's coming through on all frequencies at once." Jake knew the Valari well. They were one of the oldest races in the galaxy, known for their wisdom and kindness. When humans first joined the Galactic Federation 200 years ago, the Valari had been among the few species to welcome them with open arms. While others saw humans as dangerous newcomers, the Valari shared their medical knowledge freely and helped cure diseases that had killed millions on Earth. "Put it through," Jake said, settling into his chair. The main screen flickered to life, showing Elder Zahn, the spiritual leader of the Valari people. The alien's usually calm blue skin now had a sickly gray tint, and his large, gentle eyes were filled with desperation. "Captain Morrison," Elder Zahn's voice trembled, "I am sending this message to all ships in range, but I pray especially that humans will hear it." "Our world is dying," Jake leaned forward. "The Valari never asked for help. They were the ones who usually helped others." 3 months ago, Elder Zahn continued, "a strange organism appeared in our northern forests. We call it the Gray Death. It consumes everything it touches, plants, animals, even the soil itself. Nothing we try can stop it. Our greatest scientists have failed. Our allies have failed. The organism resists every weapon, every medicine, every technology we possess." The screen showed images of the Valari homeworld, where once green forests and crystal cities had stood. Now only gray wasteland remained. The destruction spread like a cancer across their beautiful planet. "We have perhaps 3 weeks before our entire biosphere collapses," Elder Zahn said. "Our children are already becoming sick from the toxins in the air. We have tried everything. Everything except," he paused, looking directly at the camera, "except asking the humans." Jake felt his chest tighten. Around the bridge, his crew exchanged glances. Everyone knew what the Valari had done for humanity. "The other races tell us humans are too young, too inexperienced to help where advanced civilizations have failed," Elder Zahn continued. "But we remember what humans did when faced with impossible odds on their own world. We remember your resourcefulness, your refusal to give up. If anyone can find a solution where others cannot, it would be humans." The message ended with coordinates to the Valari system and a simple plea: "Help us if you can." The bridge fell silent. Jake could hear the quiet hum of the ship's engines and the soft beeping of computers. His navigation officer, Lieutenant Danny Rodriguez, was the first to speak. "Sir, if we change course now, we can reach their system in 4 days." "Captain," his science officer, Dr. Lisa Martinez, said quietly, "I've been reading reports about this Gray Death. 7 different species have sent their best scientists. The Zephyrians tried quantum sterilization. The Corvin used temporal field reversals. Nothing worked. Some of the galaxy's smartest minds have declared it impossible to stop." Jake stood up and walked to the viewing window. Stars stretched out before them, distant and cold. He thought about his childhood on Earth, learning about the diseases that had once killed millions: cancer, plague, smallpox. All defeated eventually by human stubbornness and ingenuity. "Dr. Martinez," he said without turning around, "have humans ever studied this organism?" "No, sir. When it first appeared, the Federation Science Council decided to handle it themselves. They said human biology was too primitive to contribute." Jake turned back to his crew. "And how's that working out for them?" His communications officer, Amy, spoke up. "Sir, I've been monitoring Federation channels. Most species are writing off the Valari homeworld as lost. They're discussing evacuation plans and refugee settlements." "They're giving up," Jake said, feeling anger rise in his chest. "They're just going to let an entire civilization die." His first officer, Commander Ryan O'Neill, stepped forward. "Captain, what are your orders?" Jake looked around at his crew. Humans, all descendants of a species that had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and near-extinction events. They had that look in their eyes, the same look humans had worn when they decided to split the atom, reach for the moon, or dive to the deepest parts of their oceans. "We're going to the Valari system," Jake announced. "Full speed." "Sir," Dr. Martinez said hesitantly, "what can we possibly do that advanced civilizations couldn't?" Jake smiled grimly. "We're going to think like humans, not like advanced civilizations. Sometimes the oldest solutions work better than the newest ones." He turned to his communications officer. Amy, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we need emergency authorization to attempt a biological intervention in the Volari system. A biological intervention, sir? Ryan asked. The Volari saved millions of human lives when we joined the Federation, Jake said firmly. They shared their medicine with us when others wanted to keep us quarantined. They treated us like equals when everyone else saw us as dangerous animals. We owe them everything. Amy looked up from her console. Sir, Earth Command is responding. They're asking for details about your plan. Tell them we don't have a plan yet, Jake said. But we're humans. We'll figure something out. We always do, his crew smiled at that. It was true. Humans had a reputation for pulling solutions out of thin air when everything seemed hopeless. Also, Jake continued, send a message to Elder Zahn. Tell him humanity remembers its debts. Tell him we're coming and we're bringing Earth with us. As the Starbound changed course toward the Volari system, Jake felt the weight of an entire civilization resting on their shoulders. Other species might see this as a hopeless mission, but humans had never been good at accepting hopeless situations. The galaxy was about to learn something important about humans. They didn't just remember kindness. They repaid it no matter the cost. The ship jumped to faster than light speed, carrying its small human crew toward a dying world that had once offered them life. Behind them, other Federation ships continued on their planned routes, confident that the Volari situation was beyond help. They had no idea what humans were capable of when they decided to pay back a debt. Dr. Lisa Martinez stared at the microscopic images on her screen with fascination and horror. The gray death organism writhed under the scanner like a living nightmare, consuming everything the computer fed it in the simulation. She had been studying it for 3 days straight ever since the Starbound arrived in the Volari system. It's incredible, she murmured to herself, and terrifying. Captain Jake Morrison walked into the science lab carrying 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to Lisa and sat down beside her workstation. Through the lab's windows, they could see the Volari homeworld below them. Gray patches covered nearly half the planet now. What have you found? Jake asked. Lisa rubbed her tired eyes. The other species were right about one thing. This organism is unlike anything we've seen before. It breaks down matter at the molecular level and uses the energy to reproduce. It's like a biological disassembler. But, Jake prompted, hearing something in her voice. But they're thinking about it all wrong, Lisa said, her excitement growing. They're treating it like some kind of superweapon or natural disaster. They're trying to destroy it with advanced technology. Quantum fields, temporal manipulation, energy weapons. Jake sipped his coffee. And that's not working. Because they're not thinking like humans, Lisa continued. Look at this. She pulled up a chart showing the organism's spread pattern. See how it moves? It follows food sources, avoids hostile environments, and spreads to areas with the most nutrients. It's not a weapon or a disaster. What is it then? Lisa grinned. It's an invasive species. Just like kudzu in the American South or rabbits in Australia, Earth dealt with problems like this for millions of years. Jake set down his coffee cup, understanding dawning on his face. You want to fight biology with biology? Exactly. But not just any biology. Lisa pulled up files from Earth's biological database. I've been studying Earth organisms that might be able to compete with the Gray Death. Look at this. Deinococcus radiodurans, the most radiation-resistant organism on Earth. And here, certain extremophile bacteria that can survive in space, underwater, even in acid. She showed him image after image of Earth's most aggressive life forms. Fungi that could break down concrete, bacteria that ate metal, viruses that could rewrite genetic codes. The other species see these as crude, primitive organisms, Lisa explained. But Earth life evolved in one of the most competitive environments in the galaxy. Every organism here had to fight for survival against millions of other species. We're talking about 4 billion years of biological warfare. Jake leaned back in his chair. The Federation would never approve this. Introducing Earth organisms to an alien world breaks every environmental protection law they have. I know, Lisa said quietly. But Jake, what if we could save them? Before Jake could answer, Commander Ryan O'Neill's voice came over the intercom. Captain to the bridge. We have incoming Federation vessels. Jake and Lisa hurried to the bridge where they found 3 massive ships approaching. One Zephyrian, one Corvin, and one belonging to the Federation Council itself. The main screen showed Admiral Thex of the Zephyrians, his crystalline features glowing with authority. Captain Morrison, Admiral Theck said, you are ordered to withdraw from this system immediately. The Federation Science Council has declared the Volari situation beyond assistance. Your presence here serves no purpose. Jake stepped forward. Admiral, we're still conducting our analysis. We haven't given up yet. Human analysis is unnecessary, Admiral Thex replied coldly. Advanced civilizations have already exhausted all possibilities. Primitive human science cannot succeed where superior minds have failed. Dr. Martinez moved to stand beside her captain. What if primitive is exactly what we need? The alien admiral's features flickered with what might have been amusement. Explain. Every species that's tried to stop the Grey Death has used advanced technology, Lisa said. But maybe the solution isn't more advanced. Maybe it's more basic. Earth has been dealing with invasive organisms for billions of years. We know how to fight them. You propose to introduce Earth biology to the Volari homeworld? Admiral Thex's voice rose in shock. That is ecological terrorism. Earth organisms are among the most aggressive in known space. You could destroy what remains of their biosphere. Their biosphere is already destroyed, Jake said firmly. At least our way gives them a chance. The Federation Council will not permit this madness, Admiral Thex declared. Earth organisms will not be unleashed on an alien world under any circumstances. Jake looked at his crew, then back at the screen. Admiral, I need to speak with Elder Zahn. The Volari leader is dying along with his people. This conversation is over. No, Jake said quietly. It's not. He turned to his communications officer. Amy, get me Elder Zahn on a secure channel. Within minutes, the Volari leader appeared on a secondary screen. He looked even worse than before. His blue skin now almost completely gray, but his eyes still held intelligence and hope. Elder Zahn, Jake said, we think we have a solution, but it's dangerous and it goes against Federation law. We want to introduce Earth organisms to your world to fight the Grey Death. They might save your biosphere or they might make things worse. The choice is yours. Elder Zahn was quiet for a long moment. Behind him, other Volari leaders gathered, their faces grave but listening. Captain Morrison, Elder Zahn finally said, your species understands something ours does not. That sometimes survival requires impossible choices. We trust human judgment. Do what you must. Admiral Thex's image flickered with rage. If you proceed with this plan, humanity will be expelled from the Federation. You will be branded as ecological terrorists. Jake looked around his bridge one more time. His crew nodded back at him. They were all in agreement. Admiral, Jake said calmly, sometimes being right is more important than being legal. Lisa, begin preparations for biological deployment. Understood. Captain, Dr. Martinez replied, already moving toward her laboratory. Ryan, set course for Earth. We're going to need samples. Yes, sir, Commander O'Neill said with a grin. As the Starbound turned away from the Federation vessels, Jake felt the weight of his decision. They were about to risk everything, their careers, their reputations, maybe even their freedom. But the Volari had once saved humanity, and now it was time to return the favor. The galaxy was about to learn that humans didn't just remember their debts, they paid them back with interest, no matter what laws stood in their way. The Earth Defense Command facility buzzed with activity as Captain Jake Morrison and his team gathered the most dangerous cargo in human history. Dr. Lisa Martinez supervised the loading of specialized containment units while Commander Ryan O'Neill coordinated with Earth's biological warfare specialists. This is insane, muttered Dr. Carlos Rodriguez, Earth's leading expert on extremophile organisms. You want to take our planet's most aggressive life forms and drop them on an alien world? That's exactly what we want to do, Lisa replied, checking her tablet. How many samples do we have ready? 12 different species, Carlos answered reluctantly. Modified Dinococcus radiodurans, engineered mycorrhizal fungi, extremophile bacteria, and some experimental viruses that can rewrite genetic codes. Each one designed to be more aggressive than anything that exists naturally. Jake walked among the containment units, each one marked with warning symbols in multiple languages. These organisms represented humanity's darkest biological research. Weapons that had never been used because they were too dangerous, too unpredictable. Are you sure about the modifications? Jake asked. The modifications make them target specific molecular structures found in the Grey Death, Lisa explained. In theory, they should ignore Volari biology and focus on the invader. In theory, Carlos repeated grimly. But biology doesn't always follow theory. These organisms could evolve, adapt, change their targeting. We could accidentally wipe out all life on that planet. Before Jake could respond, Admiral Susan Kane strode into the facility. The head of Earth's fleet looked grim as she approached the team. "Captain Morrison," she said formally, "I've just received orders from the Federation Council. You are to abandon this mission immediately and return to standard patrol duties." Jake stood straighter. "Admiral, with respect, the Valari are dying. We can save them." "At what cost?" Admiral Kane demanded. "The Federation is threatening to expel humanity entirely if we proceed. They're calling this biological terrorism." "They're calling it terrorism because they're afraid," Lisa interjected. "They're afraid that primitive humans might succeed where their advanced science failed." Admiral Kane studied the young scientist. "And what if you're wrong? What if these organisms destroy the Valari world completely? Then we'll have failed trying," Jake said quietly. "But at least we'll have tried. The Valari saved millions of human lives when we joined the Federation. They deserve our best effort, not our surrender to Federation politics." The Admiral was quiet for a long moment, looking at the containment units. Each one held enough biological material to transform an entire world, or destroy it. "If I authorize this mission," she said finally, "and it goes wrong, it won't just be your careers on the line. Humanity could be branded as a rogue species. We could face military action from the entire Federation. And if we do nothing," Ryan said, "we'll have to live with letting our friends die when we might have saved them." Admiral Kane closed her eyes, weighing the decision. Around them, technicians continued loading the biological samples, waiting for the order to proceed or abort. "Permission granted," she said finally. "But I'm taking full responsibility. If this fails, the blame falls on me, not you." "Thank you, Admiral," Jake said. "Don't thank me yet," Kane replied grimly. "You haven't seen what happens when you unleash Earth biology on an alien world." Hours later, the expanded human fleet approached the Valari system. 3 ships now: the Starbound, the heavy cruiser Defiance, and the specialized biological deployment vessel Genesis. The Federation blockade had grown as well, with ships from 6 different species surrounding the dying planet. "They're not going to let us through," Ryan observed, studying the tactical display. "Yes, they are," Jake said with quiet confidence. "Amy, open a channel to all Federation vessels." The main screen split to show multiple alien commanders, their faces ranging from angry to confused. Admiral Thex of the Zephyrian spoke first. "Captain Morrison, you will halt your advance immediately. No human vessel will be permitted to approach the Valari homeworld." "Admiral," Jake replied calmly, "we're not asking for permission anymore. We're informing you of our intentions. Stand aside. You cannot threaten the entire Federation." Admiral Thex's crystalline features flared with outrage. "We're not threatening anyone," Jake said. "We're saving our friends." "There's a difference." On the planet below, Elder Zahn watched the confrontation from his dying capital city. The Grey Death had consumed 80% of his world now. His people had perhaps days left before the atmosphere itself became unbreathable. "Elder," one of his advisors whispered, "the humans are risking everything for us." "Why?" Elder Zahn smiled sadly. "Because they understand something the rest of the galaxy does not. Honor is not a suggestion to humans. It is a law of nature." In space above, the standoff continued. The Federation ships had superior numbers and firepower, but something in the humans' determination gave them pause. These were the same species that had fought their way up from primitive beginnings to space travel in just a few thousand years. Lieutenant Colonel Pete Davis, commander of the biological deployment team, watched the tactical display with professional interest. "Captain, if we're going to do this, we need to start soon. The planetary atmospheric conditions are degrading rapidly." Jake nodded. "All ships prepare for deployment." "Federation vessels, final warning, stand aside or be moved aside." "You would fire on Federation ships?" Admiral Thex demanded. "We would do whatever it takes," Jake replied simply. The truth in his voice was unmistakable. The Federation commanders looked at each other uncertainly. They had studied human history. These were beings who had fought wars over concepts like freedom and honor. They would absolutely fire on superior forces if they believed their cause was just. "Federation vessels are withdrawing to minimum safe distance," Ryan reported with surprise. "They're smart," Jake said. "They don't want to find out how far humans will go for their friends." The Genesis moved into position above the Valari homeworld. In its cargo bay, Pete Davis and his team prepared the biological samples for atmospheric deployment. Each container held what amounted to a biological weapon of mass destruction. Beginning atmospheric seeding, Pete announced over the comm. God help us all. The first containers released their contents into the upper atmosphere of the Valari world. Billions of Earth organisms began their descent toward an alien biosphere, carrying with them 4 billion years of evolutionary warfare. Below, Elder Zahn felt the wind change direction. Something was coming, either salvation or final destruction. The humans had kept their promise. Now they would all discover together what happened when Earth came to an alien world. The galaxy held its breath as humanity rolled the dice with an entire civilization's fate. The first 24 hours were a nightmare. Dr. Lisa Martinez watched the sensor readings with growing horror as the Earth organisms spread across the Valari homeworld. What should have been a controlled biological intervention had become something far more chaotic. The mycorrhizal fungi are multiplying faster than predicted, she reported to Captain Jake Morrison. They're not just targeting the Grey Death. They're interacting with Valari plant life in ways we didn't expect. On the main screen, satellite images showed the planet's surface in real time. Where the Earth organisms had been deployed, massive changes were occurring. Forests that had been gray and dying were now writhing with new growth, but it wasn't the original Valari vegetation. Captain, Commander Ryan O'Neill said grimly, we're getting reports from the surface. Entire ecosystems are collapsing and reforming. Some Valari cities are being overrun by aggressive plant growth. Jake felt his stomach drop. This was exactly what the Federation had warned about. Earth biology was too aggressive, too adaptable. They might have saved the Valari from the Grey Death only to destroy them with something worse. Sir, Dr. Carlos Rodriguez called from his monitoring station. I'm detecting massive die-offs in several regions. The interaction between Earth fungi and Valari soil chemistry is creating toxic compounds. Through the lab windows, Jake could see Federation ships maintaining their distance, no doubt recording everything for the inevitable war crimes trial. Admiral Thex would have plenty of evidence that humans were ecological terrorists. Any word from Elder Zahn? Jake asked. Communications are sporadic, Amy Foster reported. The atmospheric changes are interfering with our signals. Last contact was 6 hours ago. Jake closed his eyes, feeling the weight of an entire civilization on his shoulders. Had he just witnessed the destruction of the people who had once saved humanity? Wait, Lisa said suddenly, her voice rising with excitement. Look at this. She pulled up a detailed scan of the northern continent where the Grey Death had first appeared. The readings showed something remarkable. The alien organism was disappearing. Not just dying, but being systematically broken down and consumed. The extremophile bacteria are working, Lisa explained rapidly. They're not just eating the Grey Death. They're converting its molecular structure into nutrients for the mycorrhizal fungi. And the fungi are... She paused, checking her readings again. What? Jake demanded. The fungi are sharing those nutrients with Valari plants. Look at these root system scans. Earth fungi and Valari plants are forming symbiotic relationships. They're helping each other survive. Dr. Rodriguez leaned over her shoulder, studying the data. That's impossible. Cross-species symbiosis between organisms from different worlds shouldn't happen this quickly. Unless, Lisa said slowly, the organisms are adapting in real time. Earth life is incredibly adaptable, but this is beyond anything we've seen before. Jake felt a spark of hope. What about the toxic compounds? The die-offs? Those might be part of the process, Lisa replied, pulling up more data. Look, in areas where the die-offs occurred first, new growth is appearing. Hybrid plants that combine Earth and Valari characteristics. They seem to be more resistant to toxins and environmental stress. On the surface of the Valari homeworld, Elder Zahn emerged from his underground shelter to witness a transformation beyond imagination. Where his capital city had once been surrounded by gray wasteland, now strange new forests were growing. Trees that looked like combinations of earth oaks and Valari crystal plants stretched toward the sky. Elder, his aide whispered in amazement. The air tastes clean for the first time in months. Elder Zahn breathed deeply, feeling oxygen flow into his lungs without the burning sensation that had plagued him for weeks. Around them, other Valari emerged from their shelters, staring at the rapidly changing landscape. A communication device crackled to life in Elder Zahn's hand. Captain Morrison's voice came through, filled with concern. Elder Zahn, please respond. What's your status down there? Captain Morrison, Elder Zahn replied, his voice stronger than it had been in months. We are witnessing a miracle. Your Earth organisms are not destroying our world, they are rebuilding it. Are your people safe? Jake asked. More than safe, Elder Zahn said, watching as Valari children played among the strange new plants. The hybrid ecosystems your organisms have created are producing more oxygen than our original forests. The water is cleaner. Even the soil is more fertile. Back on the Starbound, the human crew exchanged amazed glances. Dr. Rodriguez shook his head in disbelief. This shouldn't be possible. We deployed biological weapons, not terraforming tools. Maybe that's the difference between human thinking and Federation thinking, Jake said quietly. We don't see biology as a weapon. We see it as a tool for survival. And Earth life has always been about finding ways to survive and thrive, even in impossible conditions. Lisa pulled up a planetary overview. Captain, look at this. The changes aren't random. The Earth organisms are creating optimal growing conditions for Valari life forms. It's like they're actively trying to help. Or maybe, Jake said thoughtfully, that's just what Earth life does. We evolved in cooperation as much as competition. Maybe our organisms naturally try to create stable ecosystems, even on alien worlds. 3 days later, Ambassador Patricia Lee arrived from Earth to address the Federation Council. The political fallout from the Valari intervention was spreading across the galaxy, but the results on the planet below were undeniable. The Grey Death was completely gone. The Valari homeworld was not only alive but thriving beyond its original state. The hybrid ecosystems were producing new medicines, more efficient food crops, and atmospheric conditions that were actually superior to what had existed before the crisis. The humans have violated every principle of environmental protection, Admiral Thex accused during the emergency council session. They have unleashed biological warfare on an alien world, and saved an entire civilization in the process, Ambassador Lee replied calmly. The Valari are not only alive but healthier than ever. Their world is more fertile, their atmosphere cleaner, their future brighter. That is irrelevant, Admiral Thex insisted. The precedent this sets is dangerous. What happens when humans decide another species needs their biological intervention? Ambassador Lee stood up, her voice carrying across the council chamber. The Federation needs to understand something about humanity. We don't intervene because we want to control. We intervene because we remember kindness. She activated a holographic display showing the Valari homeworld, as it appeared now, covered in lush forests that seemed to glow with their own inner light. 200 years ago, the Valari could have treated humans as dangerous primitives like so many others did. Instead, they welcomed us. They shared their medical knowledge freely. They saved millions of human lives without asking for anything in return. The council chamber fell silent as Ambassador Lee continued. You want to know what happens when humans decide another species needs help? We move heaven and earth to provide it. We risk our ships, our careers, our standing in the galaxy. Because that's what friends do for each other. Elder Zahn's image appeared on the council's main screen, broadcast live from his restored homeworld. Honored members of the Federation, he said, I speak for all Valari when I say that humanity has given us more than survival. They have given us a future we never could have imagined. The humans did not save us despite the risks. They saved us because of who they are. As the council session ended, one fact became clear to every species in the Federation. Humanity had just demonstrated something that terrified and amazed them in equal measure. These newcomers to the galaxy didn't just remember their friends. They would literally reshape worlds to protect them. And if they could do this for their friends, what would they do to their enemies? 6 months after the Valari intervention, the galaxy was a different place. Captain Jake Morrison, now Admiral Morrison, stood in the observation deck of the New Earth Valari Joint Research Station, orbiting the transformed homeworld. Through the transparent walls, he could see the planet below, a world that now glowed with bioluminescent forests visible even from space. The hybrid ecosystems are still evolving, Dr. Lisa Martinez reported, joining him at the viewing window. She now held the title of Director of Xenobiological Applications, a position that hadn't existed before humanity proved that Earth life could enhance alien worlds rather than destroy them. Any problems? Jake asked. The opposite, Lisa smiled. The Valari are reporting crop yields 3 times higher than before the Gray Death. The atmospheric oxygen content is up 15%. And the new medicines they're developing from the hybrid plants are showing promise for treating diseases across multiple species. Jake nodded, but his expression remained serious. And the political situation? That's more complicated, Lisa admitted. The intervention on the Valari homeworld had sent shockwaves through the Galactic Federation that were still reverberating. Species that had previously dismissed humanity as primitive newcomers were reassessing their entire relationship with Earth. In the Federation Council chambers, Ambassador Patricia Lee faced a very different audience than she had 6 months ago. Where once there had been condescension and dismissal, now there was cautious respect mixed with genuine fear. The Corvin Syndicate wishes to formally request human assistance with the blight affecting their agricultural worlds, announced Senator Vex, his tentacled form writhing with what passed for nervousness among his species. The Zephyrian Collective also submits a request, added another voice. Our mining colonies are experiencing ecosystem failures. Perhaps human biological expertise could. Ambassador Lee raised her hand for silence. The United Earth government appreciates these requests, but we need to be clear about something. Humanity doesn't provide biological intervention services. What we did for the Valari wasn't a business transaction. Then what was it? Asked Senator Vex. It was paying back a debt of honor, Patricia replied firmly. The Valari saved human lives when we needed help most. We returned that favor when they needed us. It's that simple. The council chamber fell silent. Around the vast circular room, representatives of dozens of species absorbed this statement. Many were recalculating their own historical interactions with humanity. On Earth, in the archives of the Department of Galactic Relations, teams of historians were compiling what would become known as the Ledger, a comprehensive record of every interaction between humanity and other species since joining the Federation. Every trade deal, every diplomatic exchange, every act of kindness or hostility was being documented and analyzed. Director Sam Palmer, head of the project, briefed his team on their findings. The pattern is clear, he said, gesturing to the massive holographic display showing 2 centuries of data. Humanity has been keeping track of everything. Every species that helped us when we were new to the galaxy, every one that hindered us, every neutral party that simply ignored us. What are the implications? Asked Dr. Jenny Walsh, the project's lead analyst. We're sitting on a database that could reshape galactic politics, Sam replied grimly. Look at this. The Andromedans consistently overcharged us for medical supplies during the Martian plague outbreak. The Centauri Collective refused to share navigation data that could have saved human exploration ships. The Rigel Confederacy actively campaigned against human membership in the Federation. Jenny studied the data with growing concern. And on the other side? The Valari shared medical knowledge freely. The Tau-Cedians offered fair trade agreements. The Wolf 359 colonies provided emergency supplies during the solar storm crisis of 2298. Sam highlighted each entry. All documented, all remembered. Sam, Jenny said quietly, this looks like humanity has been planning for this moment for 200 years. Maybe we have, Sam replied. Maybe that's just how humans think. Back at the Valari homeworld, Elder Zahn walked through gardens that existed nowhere else in the galaxy. Earth roses grew alongside Valari crystal flowers, their roots intertwined in the rich soil created by the symbiotic fungi. The hybrid ecosystem had become a living symbol of what cooperation between species could achieve. Admiral Morrison, Elder Zahn said as Jake approached through the garden paths, I wanted to thank you again for what your species has done. There's no need for thanks, Jake replied. We were just returning a favor, were you? Elder Zahn asked thoughtfully. Or were you showing the galaxy something it needed to see? Before Jake could answer, his communication device chimed with an urgent message from Earth. Admiral Kane's image appeared, her expression grave. Jake, we have a situation developing. The Rigel Confederacy has just announced a trade embargo against human colonies. They're claiming we've become too dangerous to deal with normally. Jake felt a cold anger settle in his chest. The Rigel Confederacy, the same species that had tried to keep humanity out of the Federation, that had denied aid during multiple crises, that had treated humans as unwelcome primitives for 2 centuries. What's their stated reason? Jake asked. They say our biological intervention capabilities make us an ecological threat, Admiral Kane replied. But intelligence suggests they're really afraid we might intervene somewhere they don't want us to. Jake looked around the thriving garden, then back at the communication device. Admiral, please relay a message to the Rigel Confederacy. Tell them that humanity remembers our friends and we remember those who aren't our friends. Jake, Admiral Kane said carefully, are you suggesting retaliation? I'm suggesting honesty, Jake replied. For 200 years, we've been the grateful newcomers, accepting whatever treatment other species decided to give us. Maybe it's time they understood that gratitude works both ways, and so does its absence. Elder Zahn listened to this exchange with growing understanding. Admiral Morrison, your species isn't just repaying debts, is it? You're teaching the galaxy a lesson about consequences. Jake nodded slowly. The galaxy is about to learn that humans don't just remember kindness. We remember everything, and we have very long memories. News of the exchange between Earth and the Rigel Confederacy spread quickly through Federation communication networks. Intelligence services across the galaxy began urgent reviews of their own species' historical interactions with humanity. The Andromedans quietly announced revised trade agreements offering retroactive compensation for past overcharging. The Centauri Collective suddenly became eager to share their most advanced navigation technologies. Species that had been neutral toward humanity for centuries began offering cultural exchanges and cooperation agreements. But perhaps most tellingly, the Rigel Confederacy's trade embargo lasted exactly 3 days before they quietly rescinded it and requested diplomatic talks. Admiral Morrison stood once again in the observation deck of the research station, watching the bioluminescent world turn slowly below. The galaxy had learned an important lesson about humanity. They were the most dangerous species to both befriend and betray. Computer, Jake said to the station's AI, display current status of human diplomatic relations. A holographic chart appeared, showing hundreds of species across the galaxy. Green indicators marked allies and friends. Yellow showed neutral parties. Red indicated hostile or unfriendly relations. The chart was almost entirely green and yellow now. The few remaining red indicators were shrinking by the day as species reconsidered their positions. The galaxy is learning, Jake said to himself. We remember our friends and we remember our enemies, but we also remember who chooses to become which. Below him, the Valari homeworld continued its transformation, a living testament to what happened when humans decided to repay a debt. The hybrid forest pulsed with gentle light, visible proof that when humanity chose to help, they didn't just solve problems, they created miracles. And every species in the galaxy now understood that the same power that could create such miracles could just as easily be turned in other directions. The trembling had begun not with fear of human weapons or technology, but with the realization that humanity possessed something far more dangerous. The absolute certainty that every debt, positive or negative, would eventually be repaid in full.